Patrick Mahomes. He needs 5,000 yards. That's a lot. And Kansas City, they have a very good O-line. So is it achievable? Yes. 5,000 yards is a lot. And especially a team like Kansas City that, as you previously alluded to not 5 minutes ago, they're probably not going to play Patrick Mahomes because they're probably going to be in a pretty good situation come week 17, week 18. You're right. Mm-hmm. Week 18 is a weird thing to say. It feels weird to say. Where do you see Patrick Mahomes coming in, Mr. Nick Whalen?
I mean, I hate to say it, but I kind of like the over here. Like, is it fair to say that the last 2 years, is it fair to say that the last 2 years Mahomes has statistically almost underachieved? You know, like for as great as he's been, like, doesn't it feel like he should have more than 38 touchdowns last year or 26 touchdowns the year before? And he missed one game last year. He missed 2 games in 2019. That was when he had that, I think, the dislocated kneecap. And obviously they won the Super Bowl and it worked out, but it, you know, for as great as he is, like, it feels like they played it safe, I think, last year. Games that it felt like when you're watching, it's like, man, they could win this game 48-30 if they want, but they just kind of choose to win it, like, you know, 31-28 or whatever it is. Like it didn't feel like they were taking some of the same chances that they were back in 2018 when Mahomes really exploded onto the scene. You know, had 5,100 passing yards, 50 touchdowns in that year. I mean, he had 12 fewer passing touchdowns last season than he did in his MVP year in 2018. That's a pretty big number. So part of me thinks like he's due for just like a crazy scorched earth type of season, kind of a reasserting myself as the unquestioned best quarterback, the unquestioned MVP. But at the same time, you know, a lot of the caveats that we mentioned with Brady also have to be mentioned with Mahomes, where, you know, maybe he doesn't play all 17 games. Maybe the Chiefs are just good enough in a division that shouldn't be all that good, that they don't have to put the gas down. You know, they're running the ball a lot in the second half. I think the priority for him obviously is getting to the Super Bowl, not necessarily throwing 55 touchdowns and 5,500 yards. So that's kind of the balance, I guess, of where I come in with Mahomes.
Yeah, I think it is tough because he's done it before in fewer games on the schedule. So when you see it, it's like, oh, it's totally achievable. But then you're also like, man, that was Patrick Mahomes that did that. He still is Patrick Mahomes. He still has the blocking, but 5,000 yards. Like, it's doable. It's doable for him, but that is a lot.
It's doable by week 14.
Yeah. I'm taking the more on this. I'm just going to put my foot down. I'm taking the more.
You're going for it. I mean, he's still got his legs too. He can get outside the pocket. He can run the ball. I mean, he only rushed for 2 touchdowns last year too. I mean, that seems like an extremely low number. I'm not sure if he added a few more in the playoffs. And then something that you said that I want to just build upon, Nick, was, I think he's going to come out this year and want to prove something. He said it. I was watching an interview with him after the Super Bowl, a few weeks after the Super Bowl, and he used the term, it will haunt me for the rest of my life that they weren't able to put up a touchdown in that game.
Yeah.
You don't think he's not going to come out and just be the most assertive, dominant version of Patrick Mahomes? You're crazy.
I just want to
he's
add
an ultra-competitive guy that wants to be the best of the best. Sorry, Jason.
No, I was just going to add that the only thing that I could see cutting into the passing yards potentially is that if they've established such a good rushing game with the talent they have in their backfield, that
those are still screen passes,
right? And they're still going to get some of those. So I mean, like, I actually think this number is evil because it's, you know, it's right on the edge of what.
Well, I think it's what Nick said about the Tom Brady thing. It's baiting you to go more. It's literally a half yard off 5,000. It wants 5,000. It's staring at you and it says 5,000. Come and get me, and I'm gonna go and get it. I'm taking more too. I'm with Nick. It's Patrick Mahomes. Put a chip on that guy's shoulder and see what happens. I mean, you draft Mitch Trubisky over him. He goes out and becomes the best quarterback of all time. Let's just, well, maybe not the best of all time, but he's paving a way for himself. Let's just say that.
To make a cross-sport argument, I feel like he's already, and he's only going into his 4th year as a starter, which is crazy. But it already feels like he's
5 years old.
Yeah, it already feels like he's in that like late career LeBron, Steph Curry mode where they kind of just like stop trying to win MVPs and stop trying to play every single game at 100% in the regular season, just to remind everybody in the playoffs, like, oh yeah, I'm still the best player. And it feels like that was the mode that the Chiefs were in last year after winning the Super Bowl in 2019. It felt like they came back and they're just like, let's just go on cruise control through the regular season. And when we get to the playoffs, then we'll hit the gas and we will really, kind of become the 2019 Chiefs. and it worked to a degree, and then it didn't work all of a sudden in the Super Bowl. I think they played it a little too safe last year, and obviously it got them a 14-1 record, with Patrick Mahomes under center during the regular season. So you can't necessarily fault that method of just kind of like, let's get through this, make sure we're in the playoffs, and then we'll go from there. But I don't know. It didn't seem like they had as much fun last year. It didn't quite seem like they were always like,
seemed like they were managing business. It was a very
right. They were the whole team was in like game management mode, and it's still, they're so good that it still means like a borderline MVP season for Mahomes, a historic season for Kelsey. Like it's not like these guys were loafing it by any means, but watching them week to week, you're like, this team could do more if they wanted.
Well, let's elaborate on that, because we talked about their passing yards and we both like more on that. And now their passing touchdown line on Monkey Knife Fight, both of them are 39.5. And we just said Patrick Mahomes, like, we expect him to get the ball down the field, but getting into the end zone was a problem in the Super Bowl. And 40 passing touchdowns, I think I got less on Patrick Mahomes for the passing touchdowns solely because I do think their running offense is so talented. Andy Reid is a evil genius with the way he can get the ball to Tyreek Hill with tosses and flips. And Travis Kelce, obviously they're going to get the touchdown shots. They're going to get the deep shots with Cheetah. It's going to happen, but 40 is a lot. He didn't do it last season. And as you said, in that game management mode, I do think he goes out to assert himself. I just 40 touchdowns. I see the passing yards, but with that kind of Andy Reid offense, I'm going to have to take less than 40 touchdowns. And for Tom Brady, I'm actually going to take more. They just have so many passing threats in Tampa Bay, and Tom Brady, he's not playing to run the ball. He's playing because he wants to be there to pass the ball.
Right.
So in terms of touchdowns, I take more on Tom Brady on the 39.5 and less on Patrick Mahomes. Nick, how are you feeling on that?
I think I got to go more on Mahomes. I mean, you're assuming that he's probably going to play one more game than he did last year. And he could play two more games if something goes awry and they need to win week 17. Although in that scenario, Mahomes is probably injured at some point. Like if he stays healthy, week 17 is most likely meaningless for the Chiefs. So let's pencil him in for 16 games. He had 38 touchdowns in 15 games last year. They had a game where they scored 43 points against the Denver Broncos, and he had one passing touchdown in that game. Multiple games where they scored 30 plus and he had only two passing touchdowns. Like I feel like some of the odds are maybe going to come around on those. Like, we can either punch it in from the two, or we can do a quick screen to Demarcus Robinson, who's going to walk it in. I feel like some of those plays that were, instead of running the fullback trap, you're just going to run the Rodgers, Devontae Adams, like free touchdown, which is like, it seemed like half of Rodgers' touchdowns were on that last year. I think, like we've been saying, it felt like Mahomes could have done so much more last year. And if I feel like he's going to kind of break out of that shell a little bit from a yardage perspective, I think he can also do it from a touchdowns perspective.